Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. No aux in the car. Riding around bumping that first blueprint on this. I ain't trying to hear what the info is. I been trying to move on the impulsive tip. Do you want dip? I can tell you ain't having that much fun. 3 years in with your ex-boyfriend, y'all tied that knot, but it's back undone. Oh yeah, I'm trying to stack 1 ton. You ain't gotta ask where that come from. I ain't never rock no pack, son. I was on the pack at the mall, same mess. I skip class, no hallway pass. I'm team cap, you was always last. She got good hands in the all-state. I got good kids and they all came fast. I ain't gotta say it, you can come to the Ville. Just ask who's hot, they gon' all say Jack. Told me stay down, but I always have. When I come around, man, they always ask, how does it feel? Ain't shit, tell me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. Started my night with the light. When I got to the club, I was all for the dark. And I'm on a wave like a dolphin, a shark. Y'all took shots, they was all for the mark. Keep it raw from the start.
And good evening and welcome in to Tigers Tonight. I'm your host, John Maddox, joined as always by one half of the best co-hosts in all the land, coming to us live and in living color from the palatial Marley Manor here in beautiful, scenic, and earlier this afternoon, snowy Hernando, Mississippi. One and only Larry Marley, also known as our Jimmy Sexton ambassador. Mr. Marley, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm great. I wish I was the CAA ambassador because they're getting rich. This is their Christmas morning, and this whole week, and actually probably going all the way into Christmas. So, and we're going to talk. I'm sure we've already talked about Ryan. We'll talk about him some more. Probably not Ryan as much as what's going on with the search. But I do have and you and I kind of talked about this briefly earlier this weekend. I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with, and I can't remember his last name, Mike, whatever he was making fun of everybody knows that Lane Kiffin went off on a reporter for basically calling him a hoe, when he definitely acted like a hoe. Right. I mean, let's just say it. He left his team that's going to the playoffs or maybe going to the playoffs, and to go coach another team. So, and the guy just basically quoting Memphis' own 3-6 Mafia, called him a hoe. You cannot make a hoe into a lady. That's what he said, right?
Housewife. Calling to a housewife.
Right. And all right. So one of the stuffy media types basically called the reporter a fanboy. Right? A fanboy. And I mean, was that it, or was his fanboy site? He worked at his fanboy, something along those lines.
No, so for those who aren't familiar, we'll get into the Navy game here in a minute.
Yeah, we will.
My cat Duncan demands some airtime.
Hey, Duncan.
What he wants, he gets. So yeah, let's get into Navy, and then because I do.
Let's get into that because I've got a rant on this. So go ahead.
I want to talk about the Lane Kiffin situation because I do think it's relevant to college football in general. But let's talk about Navy, and I'm wondering if you and I have the same rant. Because everybody who's listening knows what happened. Memphis fell 28-17, broke the 51 game streak of more than 20 points. They held Memphis to 288 yards total offense. Brandon Lewis was held to, I think, his lowest completion percentage of the season at 53%. Memphis goes 19 of 36, just 116 yards rushing. The leading rusher was Brendan Lewis with 36 yards. And of those 36 yards, 24 came on one play.
Right.
And Frank Pizant was another one. He had 30 yards, but of those 30 yards, 19 yards came on one play. So it was an abysmal offensive performance. There's no way to get around that. Memphis held on in the first half, but in the second half, there was a TV show where basically the person says, and I just remembered who the hell I was. And that's what Navy did in the second half is they're like, wait a minute, we're Navy. Like, what are we doing? So Navy's drives in the first half. We'll just look over here. 2 minutes, 3 plays, 2 minutes, 6 plays, 3 minutes, 7 plays, 3.5 minutes, 6 plays, 2 minutes. They punted, going to half. The second half, 18 plays, 10 minutes, 5 plays, 2.5 minutes. And then the absolute killer was the 13 play, 73-yard drive that took 8 minutes and 19 seconds off the clock. So when you go back and you look at the comparisons of the quarter half cumes, in the first half, Memphis had the ball for 17 minutes and 53 seconds to 12:07 for Navy. In the second half, Navy remembered who the hell they were, and they had the ball for 23 minutes and 22 seconds to 6:38 for Memphis. Plays were 43-26. And I think, Larry, what you also saw at the end, or there in the second half, Navy had 4 sacks in that second half. And I think you saw just kind of the general wearing down of Brendan Lewis and the Memphis offensive line.
And the fact that you could sort of tell that Memphis wanted to be about 500 million other places than the Liberty Bowl that night. And it was exactly what we saw with Tulane last year on Thanksgiving night, where Tulane had about 800,000 other places they wanted to be. And then, of course, we found out, I think, and you and I talked about this, I think there was definitely some vibes coming off the coaches that something was up. I think the players sort of lost focus when things went bad. They did not have any fight to come back. And the missed field goal certainly deflated them at the end of the first half. Terrible play call. You're driving down, go to the end zone. No, you don't do that. You do some goofy sideline play, and then you miss the field goal. Right, the kid misses the field goal. Very similar, honestly, because I went to the Southern Miss game later very similar to that, where the kid missed basically a chip shot field goal, and Troy then goes on to extend their lead, right? Southern's going to tie it, and then they don't. In this case, Memphis is going to extend to a 7-point lead. It's going to be 20-13, and I think with that lead, Memphis could have gone in with a little momentum. Navy gets the ball. Even if they score, you're just tied.
Down one, because it'd be 20-14.
Right, all right, 2014. So they would have a 1-point lead. Sorry. But it doesn't really matter. The point is, it just took all the momentum out of our sails, and we didn't have any fight to come back once we got down. It was a frustrating game to watch. I got a lot of tweets and texts from angry Tiger fans who wanted Silverfield fired. I won't fire. He should be fired. And I was like, they're not going to fire him. And of course, he leaves a couple of days later. But that game was symptomatic of, and I think we'll look back on this and go, those last 3 games are very similar to the 3 games that we had with Justin at the end of his tenure, where, I do think Ryan, I don't know that Ryan, we all know that Ryan, we know for a fact that Ryan interviewed, I believe, during the bye week, if I'm not incorrect.
The first bye week prior to
UAB. And of course we lost the UAB game. And I don't think, I refuse to believe that that's a coincidence. I just do. We won 1 game after that. Maybe two games after that, I believe. 2 games. We won 2 games after that. But the point is, like, it's just not a coincidence, guys. I mean, he goes in for the interview, the Arkansas interview, and I think he also interviewed with Oklahoma State, I believe. And then, we go when we lose 4 of 6 to close the year. I don't think that's a coincidence, guys. I just refuse to believe that.
Okay. I want all my young coaches to gather around. I want to have a little campfire moment with everyone. You punt the ball, you force Navy to punt the ball on 4th and 22 with 51 seconds left in the half. You force Navy to punt the ball. Navy gets called for holding. take the damn punt. Don't make them kick it again.
Right.
Why does that matter, John?
Time.
Well, let's go on. You make them punt again. Now, keep in mind, you'd have gotten the ball at the Memphis 45-yard line. They punt again, and you get the ball at the Navy 45. You think 10 yards. Well, you burned 11 seconds to get 10 yards. Okay.
Which you could have gotten those 10 yards in less than 11 seconds.
You start with actually, you got the ball at midfield. I'm sorry, it was a 5-yard difference. Johnny says, all we do is bitch about Sutton not getting touches, and he tries to get Sutton an extra touch, and here we are bitching about it. Yes, we are. So you get the ball at the 50, and you get 5 yards on first down with Sutton. Then you get 13 yards. Then you have an incompletion, and then Frank Pizant busts a big 19-yard run to get you down into the around the 13-yard line. And then
there's
you call
7 seconds to go.
Oh, no, we're still at 12.
Okay.
And then you call a flare to Sutton out of the backfield, not a check down. This was the called read. I went back and I watched it because I was like, you know what? He had to have checked that down. No. This was the called read. He gets tackled in bounds. A play that gains you a yard takes 7 seconds off the clock. You have to burn your final timeout. You miss the field goal. And Larry, I think I texted you and Brian, the game's over. Like, that's it. The game's over. That Memphis is not winning this game. I thought it was the pain meds at first, but then I realized I was right. I literally threw something on the floor because I knew the game was over. It reminded me, help me, which UCF championship game was it that you and I and Jennifer and Susan were at Patrick's?
That was the
17?
unfortunately, the 2018.
18. Memphis goes in with a lead, but something similar happens at the end of the half, and you and I just sit there and go, it's over. And everybody's like, Memphis is leading by whatever it was, 14, whatever. And we're like, we're not winning this game. Played out just like that. Second half, Navy comes out, takes the manhood, literally took the manhood, and it was over at that point. And that was the frustration of the last 6 years in a nutshell. If you said, draw me a situation that perfectly diagrams Memphis's frustration with the coaching staff in a 30-second span, that's it. You never make them kick again. Because the thing that was even more infuriating when I went back and watched, I said, all right, well, they're going to make him kick it again because they're going to come after him this time. They didn't come after him. They didn't. And he's backed up even more. Now he's punting from his end zone. And they don't come after him. And it was coaching malfeasance. There's no other way to put it. And in hindsight, it makes sense. And it's too bad because the kids deserved a lot better than that, because you knew those points are big because Navy is getting the ball first in the second half, right? Like, know, these are big points because
and when you're in a close game, John, every point is big, right? You always have to. So here's the other thing to this. I actually thought about this because after last week I was like, oh, Navy really put it on us last year. The guys are going to remember that. We didn't have anybody that we had a whole bunch of guys that weren't here last year. And these were guys who were brought in for one season and
mercenaries. Call them what they are.
Mercenaries. I mean, that's so they're here for one time. And when the going got tough, at the end of the year, and we know we're not going to the championship, and we know it's just like, okay, well, whatever, we lose and we'll go play in the bowl. And I felt bad for the kids, but in the end, everybody, and I said this on the show the other night, and I'll say it tonight, everybody got what they wanted, they think. Ryan got the Arkansas job. Good for him. I hope he does great. Everything that I said Sunday still holds. The Memphis fans that were bitching got Ryan's gone. Okay. Now, are the coaches that are being bantered around because look at where Penn State is right now. Okay.
Yep.
Look at where there were people at Penn State were absolutely convinced Matt Rule was going to leave Nebraska. Guess what? He ain't leaving Nebraska. Um, you know, I don't know who they thought. John Gruden is not walking through that door. I mean,
I'm so tired of hearing his name.
Yeah, I know. No. um, and I mean, like, it doesn't. My point is, you're sitting there thinking, we're going to get this guy. We're going to get that. You're not getting that guy. You're not getting anywhere near that guy. And so you hope that the guy that we get is at least as good or better than Ryan. You hope. There's no guarantees, right? And so in retrospect, like, it's terrible that the way the season ended because it had so much promise and we could have gone so far. But at least we're not in the championship without a coach.
And he has fought the travails of Northeast traffic and had a little bit of
the weather
earlier today, and now it's rainy, and he's angry, and he's got his Bruce Arians hat on. We welcome in the president of our Northern Division, Brian Moss. Brian, how are you, sir?
Not bad, not bad. Yeah, the snow turned to rain, which put me in a little mood. But as I was driving home, I
There's a
saw the
song
white
about
stuff
that,
again.
Brian.
Yeah, I saw the white stuff again. I was like, ooh.
As I turned to go home, the snow turned into rain.
Oh my God! Thank you so much, Dan Fogelberg. We appreciate that. All right, so Brian, let's get Larry and I've kind of post-mortemed the Navy game, I think, to death. We talked about the drive at the end of the first half and how
Oh,
Navy remembered who the hell they were to start the second half, and they just kind of roll over Memphis. Let's get your thoughts on, were you surprised at how the Navy game played out, and then just kind of what were your thoughts?
yeah, a little bit because well, I should say the surprise was the second half because I thought Memphis came out in the first half and was playing with pride. I'm not saying they didn't play with pride in the second half, but the effort to me didn't look the same. Not from the players, not from the coaches. It looked, going back looking at the last half of the season, it looked like the players and coaches knew about Silverfield interviewing with Arkansas. And because, during the first bye week, we heard rumblings about Silverfield and Arkansas, and I'm like, eh. But then the second bye week is supposedly when the interview happened. But when you look how the season played out, and you see the timelines of events between Silverfield and Arkansas, they just kind of they fall into line, and it reminds you of Fuentes. When Fuente left, and then how everything just went to crap, from the players to the coaches. It just it was a poor performance in that second half. You're muted.
You're muted, John.
You can go back and you can ask anybody that was on that team with Paxton when it became clear that Justin, even though people argued with me, I think Brian, you and I were the first to break the news that Justin was headed to Virginia Tech.
On our show.
Yeah.
Tuesday
And
night.
you go back and you watch, and you can just, the stories from that Friday, Saturday in Philadelphia are fantastic because there was no accountability. Players stayed out late. This happened, that happened. It was a party. Nobody cared because back then you didn't have the transfer portal to think about. But yeah, it was pretty clear that after that first Navy drive of the second half, when they punched off, I think they got a 3rd and 8 and then like a 3rd and 11 on that drive, or a 3rd and 6 on that drive. It was clear. I said it was over when they missed a field goal at the end of the first half. I knew the game was, Memphis was, as the kids say, Memphis was cooked at the end of the first half. But then that first drive, that 10-minute drive, and that's what Navy does, to their credit. Look, Navy does a great job of just being Navy. You know what I mean? Like they know who they are. They know what they do, and they just do it. They don't really, frankly, give a shit what you do. They're just going to be Navy. They're just going to do
Hmm.
Navy things. And the first half, I thought Memphis had a pretty decent game plan. It was clear that Drew Cronick was not going to sneak up on them this year. Gosh, I love that dude too, by the way. A story about him in just a minute. And they just, but they just kept being Navy, and Blake Horvath is the best player in the conference. And he just made plays when he needed to make plays. And, we always look at this differently, but I try to say, okay, yes, Memphis played bad, but a lot of Memphis playing bad had something to do with Navy. They did it. They
Hmm.
especially, this was the thing. Memphis is usually the one that makes great halftime adjustments. Memphis did not make a single halftime adjustment. You go back, and especially, and we've been beating the hell out of them, but I'm going to continue to do it here. You go back and you watch Memphis's defense. Nothing changed. Navy
And,
just decided to be Navy.
and that's again indicative of a coaching staff that's, I bet, checked out. I mean, it just is like you. The difference between winning and losing is so razor thin in some
Yeah.
cases, right? When you're, I won't say comparable because we had more talent, but I think they probably had they've drafted or they've recruited very well for their style, right? And Blake
Hmm.
Horvath is awesome. So it's like having Diego, did I say it right? Pavia.
Pavia.
Okay. I mean, he's the best player on the field, so you can sort of cover some of the things. But yeah, it was they made no defensive adjustments, they made no offensive adjustments, and you could see that we were toast. We had no fire in the second half, and look, guys, this is just going to be we're going to have to run it back, and we're going to have a bowl game. And we'll see how they respond, and then let's just get ready for next year because that's all we can do.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate it for the kids. That's always my focus, are the kids, and people can say what they want to say, but they're 18 to 22, 23-year olds. And if we were building something together, and our coaches are constantly all in, we're smart enough, the collective here are smart enough to know that if a coach's lips are moving, they're lying, especially about long-term stuff. What is it? This isn't really true, but what a lot of people say, a man is only as faithful as his options. That's true in coaching. They're only as faithful as their options. Because we hear it all the time. We hear, let's see, what was the litany of things I sent you guys earlier today? They just bought a house. Their kids are in school. Their wife loves it there. This, that, none of that's true, and none of that matters. So when you take all that out and you tell a group of kids, we're in this together, we're in this for the long haul, and at the first sign of 6, 7, at the first first sign of trouble, it all falls apart, then they're going to respond like we would respond, right? Like they're going to, it's human nature. You're doing something, we'll just, I don't care. We're doing this thing, and you guys find out that I've been talking to a different group behind your back, and I'm thinking about leaving. Well, you're going to be disheartened. It's human nature, and that's not true, by the way. Never leave the best co-host in all the land. I could never find. My wife loves it here. Oh wait, sorry.
This is my dream
This is my
podcast.
This is your dream job.
This is
And
this is what
yeah,
I built for my whole career.
I'm
Was built for these moments.
but I love you guys, but if Auburn offered me the position, look,
Yeah. So
Hey, after careful, prayerful thought, I have decided.
couple sleepless nights along the way.
Yes, yes. I,
But I mean
it's
that's what I
hilarious.
think people have to remember is, these are kids, and regardless, and yeah, they're mercenaries, and I get all that, but as the season rolls along, you become a team, and that's one thing we all commented on for 78. Susan heard me and she just texted me and said, "I'll move for millions of dollars."
Yes.
And if we move, guys, in the chat, just know that if we ever leave and there are we earn millions and millions of dollars, there are tens of dollars in it for all of you. But I digress.
Tens
So
of dollars. Tens of
tens of
dollars.
dollars. So it's just human nature for, yeah, mercenaries, right? 78 new players. How many times did we hear that this year? God bless. We heard it 78 new players, 78 new players, 78 new players. Well, they became a team at 6-0, right? Like I think we all marveled, and the rest of press row marveled at, like, and these guys really do play together for a group of people that have 78 new faces. They really do play. They really do play together well. So you, I'm headed to the podcast portal. That's right. I need an agent. That's what I need.
Hey, I'm here.
But seriously, like, so when they find out that their coach possibly, and the kids aren't stupid, right? Let's stop all that too. The kids aren't stupid. They know, that they absolutely know. And they're like, well, he's not with us. He's out for himself. I think, Brian, didn't one of the recruits say something kind of adjacent to that they were surprised and they understand, but still it would, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's in 17, 18-year-old kids. So they get it. So the bottom line is this game, once looking back, it makes way more sense today, or it made way more sense Sunday at 10 a.m. than it did Thursday night at 11:30 p.m. when I'm sitting there scratching my head going, what in the hell just happened? What was that Memphis team? So, all right. So before we get into the coaching stuff, because I really do want to get into that, but more of a broad scale, because Memphis doesn't have a coach yet. And I'll just say a couple things publicly. It's not going to be Hugh Freeze. It's never going to be Hugh Freeze, and it never should be Hugh Freeze. All right, now that's out of the way, let's kind of do a post-mortem on, statistically speaking. I'm going to quiz you guys. God, I love having the data right in front of me. All right, so you're comparing the 2025 and the 2024 Memphis offenses. What rank in points per game and scoring offense do you think Memphis had in 2024? Who can jump in here?
Low 30s.
Oh, of the conference, where do you think they were
in
positioned
the
in
conference.
Oh,
2024?
in the conference. Okay. I'd say last year, fourth.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would say third.
They were first in the conference last year. They averaged
Ooh.
35.7 points per game over Tulane, who averaged 35.1. They were first. All right. So 2025, I will tell you that Memphis had just over 1 point less per game. Where do you think they ranked in scoring offense?
Because of North Texas and everything, I'm going to go. Well, I'll go fourth again.
Larry?
I almost said third, but I'll go fourth again.
Second.
Third. They were third. They were at 34.6. So you think about that for a second and you go, they only lost 1.5 points of offense, and they're now down to third. This one should be very, very easy. There should be no problem with this one. Of the offensive statistics, what number do you think changed the most between 2024 and 2025? This one's easy.
Passing yards.
Yeah. Memphis last year, they averaged 270.5 points per game. Shout out Seth Hennigan, lifelong Tiger. I can't even get started on that whole deal.
We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that because that's totally. I love
But
it when
isn't
people
it
say
isn't
crap
it
because
isn't
you
it
know they've never been in a football locker room in their freaking life.
well, and it's just ridiculous that the only player in the last whatever years to start all 4 seasons at the same institution, yes, he has to explain himself when he says he's a Ryan Silverfield
I
fan.
literally do not have any. I cannot name anybody on my team, and I played with guys that were there all 4 years that started all 44 games. I can't name one. Not one. I
All
mean,
right.
because anyway, go ahead.
So Memphis averaged in 2024, they averaged 270.5 yards per game. They had 25 passing touchdowns. In 2025, they averaged 234.5 yards passing per game and dropped all the way off to 16 touchdowns, which is ninth in the conference. But again, that's not really a surprise, right? Because
No,
you lose
Mhm.
Seth Minigan and you pick up a different type of player. All right, so let's continue. I like this quiz show with John. So let's go now. Scoring defense, and we will start whichever one wants to go first.
I'll go
All right, where do you in 2024? Where do you think Memphis ranked in the conference?
fifth.
B.
Third.
They were fourth at 23.8 points per game. Let's move to 2025. B.
Yeah, I guess fourth. Why am I saying fourth all the
I
time?
know,
But yeah,
right?
fourth.
Sixth.
They were second. They were tied with Army at
Hmm.
22.5 points per game. That one
Wow.
kind of jumped off the page at me. Let's see. Let's go rushing defense next. And I'm doing all this to build a pattern here. In 2024, where do you think they ranked in rush defense in the American?
Oh, I think they were bad from memory.
No,
Seventh
they were not bad against the run.
Oh no, I was going to say
last year.
first or
Last year,
second.
Oh,
I was going to say first or second.
they were second.
I'm
They
thinking pass because they've always been bad against the
yeah,
pass.
they gave up 111 yards on the ground. Now think
And then
about
they were. I'm going to say seventh in passing.
think about the start they had this year. I'll stop the quiz. They were third in the conference in rush defense, but here's the big difference. They gave up. Here's actually the weird thing. Both years they gave up 20 rushing touchdowns. As good as they were on the ground defensively, they gave up 20 rushing touchdowns. With this year was seventh in the league. God, Florida Atlantic gave up 35 rushing touchdowns. Jesus, man. Um, and then one final one, and this one was a bit of a surprise to me. Let's go last year third down conversions, defensive or offensively, when they would make first downs. What do you think?
Third.
Right on it, 46%. What do you think about this year?
This year, from memory, they were, I thought, decent. So I'm going to go second.
I was going to say second.
Seventh. They were
Mm.
5 points less. But keep in mind, through the first this many weeks of the season, they were first in the country in third downs. So I say all that to make a point here. Let's look. Pass defense, they were actually sixth in the league this year in pass defense.
Seventh last year or eighth? Seventh or eighth?
They had 12 interceptions this year. Pass defense last year. They were 10th last year. So I say all that to say this. They've been the same team. There's no growth. There's no, like, I could have sat here and gone back to 23 to 20. They're the same team. Just like I had somebody say to me today, if you hadn't seen Alex Golish and Ryan Silverfield on the field at the same time, they're the same dude. Good against bad teams, bad against good teams, mediocre most of the time. There was no growth in the program. Now, I am a dyed in the wool firm believer of You just want somebody to leave it as good as they found it or better. And I will fight anybody. This program is in some ways better shape, better equipped for the new version of college football.
Yes, that's
This
what I was about to
program
say.
is much better equipped for that than it was
Yep.
when Ryan found it.
Yep.
On the field,
And he helped them transition that. That Ryan was central to that transition because I will again. We will fight someone. You just don't understand how difficult it was. Look at the coaches that didn't make it in this transition. Who's the guy at Clemson? Like he
Dabo.
can't beat. Yeah, Dabo. He can't beat anybody now. Saban threw his hands up and said, "Screw it." Now, I'm not saying that Saban was a failure. I'm saying Nick didn't want any part of it. This was a difficult transition. Now, I know what you're about to say on the field. I'll let you.
Yeah. On the field, this was the same team. And Brian, I know that has to be the big frustration here, right? Is it's the same. It's Groundhog Day. It seems like Groundhog. There's no Memphis doesn't go from being a throw it all over the yard, you know, 45 point a game team down to a run it 300 yards a game, 28 point team. Like there was no change. It just Memphis, what they didn't seem to grow. They didn't seem to change on the field. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration with Ryan Silverfield comes from.
I did see the change the past 2 years in the first 6 games of this year. From the last 6 games, you saw Memphis. When Silverfield's 6-win seasons, they couldn't win the close games. I remember doing an article without looking. I mean, they were. Oh man, I can't. I'd hate to throw out a stat there, but they were, in 1-win games. I mean, they had a losing record. And this year, I mean, they couldn't win the close games because I think 3 of the 4 losses wasn't it 7 points or less.
Yep.
And then another thing that killed you this year, the last 6 games, was the penalties. Just shooting yourself in the foot. The first, I mean, we talked about it, or even tweeted about it in the first part of the year. It was like Memphis is not shooting themselves in the foot. This is this is pretty good. I mean, look at this. You're finally changing. But yeah, when you look at Silverfield's 2 10-win seasons or 10+ win seasons, Memphis didn't shoot themselves in the foot, and they were winning the close games. This year, first half, you didn't shoot yourself in the foot, but then all of a sudden that bye week happened, possibly an interview, and then all of a sudden all heck broke loose. You
27
lost focus.
27 pre-snap offensive penalties for Memphis this year. 27.
And now, did you check how many of those happened after the 6th game of the season?
Over half. It was, I mean, it was, I don't quite remember, but I want to say it was like 16 to 11. And that number skewed a little bit with the UAB game where I think they had 6, but, you sit back and you look at that and Larry, you're consistent. And I don't want this to be beat up on Ryan, but your consistent point of contention was lack of detail, lack of attention to detail.
Right.
As detailed of a program as Memphis ran off the field,
right,
they really struggled in that area on the field. And I watched it a lot this weekend. I watched teams, I watched quite a bit of North Texas this weekend because, they didn't play, so I hadn't seen very much of them. They're fast. Like, let's not get that wrong. They're really fast. They, Ole Miss, they all play at Mississippi. They all play very fast. And a bunch of those penalties were after TV timeouts or coming out of a timeout or an injury. But they go up, they line up, and let's say they hit the line with 31 seconds on the play clock. Well, by 25 seconds, the ball snapped. Like there's not this lollygagging up there. And you just saw little chinks in the armor of that lack of attention to detail and of how Memphis seemed to just not be able to get, Memphis didn't play a complete game all year.
I agree with that overall. I thought early on, I thought they played really well against Florida Atlantic. I thought they played. Actually, I think that was their best game, honestly, for the FAU game. I thought they played fairly well against. Rice was not even a good team, but but you're right, John. Like that, attention to detail on the field was always Ryan's weakness. Is that one of the things we had Gabe on, we were reminiscing about some of the old Norvell days, and we were talking about a specific play against Houston where we came up, we needed a touchdown, it was close to the end of the game, and Gabe said, we had studied that defense so many times. When we saw it, we knew exactly what we were going to do. That's the level of detail that you have to have. I remember when we were playing Eastern Kentucky, we knew exactly all their formations. It didn't help; they still blocked the hell out of us. But we knew what they were going to do. And my point is, these are attention to detail things that you can overcome some of them with just sheer talent, right? And we did. Like Seth covered up a lot of problems last year with his just ability to make plays.
Yep.
And we had great talent. People forget we probably should have lost Charlotte last year. We should have lost that game, but Seth brought us back and we won the game, right? North Texas, another game we probably should have lost that game. But the point is, like, we covered up a lot. I'm not saying that Ryan was a great coach. I'm not. But what I am going to say is that the program don't say he was a terrible coach, because he wasn't. That's all I'm saying. So, but I do get your point. If somebody wants to say we're tired of being, mediocre, we're tired of standing still, we want to move forward, okay, I'll listen to that argument. But just be careful when you're making that argument that you got to be ready and you got to have a plan if you want to do that. That's all I'm saying. Rice could have beat us last year. Jeb, you're right.
So outside of South Florida, which ends up, of course, season 9-3, what is Memphis's best win? My answer is
probably Arkansas. I mean, it's got to be Arkansas just because of their talent.
Arkansas is terrible.
Yeah, but what on the list of teams we beat? Who could beat Arkansas?
Well, I don't know much, but I know our little trip to Troy, Alabama, we beat the brakes off of an 8-4 conference championship participating team. So
but Goose was out, and look, anytime you lose, anytime you lose the tail man to Maverick, like you're automatically. No, I'm kidding, but yes, Crowder was out for the whole game. So
but Troy not really cobbled together. I mean, they flat out won and ended up 8-4. They edged out Southern Miss, and they're going to play. I don't think USF is that. I said outside of USF. I think it was two evenly matched teams, and that game is another one. And you're right, John. That could have gone. Memphis could easily be 6-6. But man, that Troy win looks better and better when you see how they finished the season.
Yep. Oh no, there's no doubt. And once Crowder got healthy, I mean, he looked good the other day. Now, I don't know that they should have beat Southern, but that's a whole different argument. He looked good, and
Marcus Freeman talked about that. He said, when you're looking back at wins, and he was talking about it from a different perspective, but he said when you're looking back at wins, you want the best teams now, not necessarily week one. Well, Troy is going to end up, I'll say, the second best win on the schedule behind USF. And that just goes to make the last half of the season so much more frustrating. But anyway.
Here's why I'll say it's still Arkansas for me, because when you take a look at Arkansas, yes, if you look at their final record, 2-10, but look at their losses. 5 of their losses came within 7 points. And if I'm not mistaken, let me try to pull up their schedule.
Okay.
In all I mean, and that's against SEC opponents. To lose within, you have one possession games. To me, you're not as of a bad team as what everybody thinks you are. That's why I still say, to me, Arkansas, because they have the talent. I mean, the ball can swing, a different direction. You win those close games, you're 7-5.
So Arkansas's point differential this season -11.
Damn.
They were when they went into the who'd they play the last game? Mizzou?
Yep.
They were +3. They were 2-9 and were +3 point differential. And I think somebody compare, I think like the Chicago Bears were +3 and they're leading the NFC. They're the number 1 or number 2 seed. But yeah, they were +3 and 2-9 on the season. So I get what you're saying, but I think my point is the Arkansas win is probably bigger, but the Troy win's probably a better win because, apparently, and somebody said this on Twitter, since all we care about anymore are wins over teams with a winning record for some strange reason, the Troy win, that's a great win. The USF win, that's a great win. It's this weird fascination. And my response to that always is, well, if everybody beat all the teams they played with winning records, nobody would have winning records. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, you're not going to go 12-0 against teams with winning records because then you don't have guys with winning records. Anyway, I digress. All right, so that kind of puts a bow on the season. We don't know bowl destination. If I were a betting man, Brian, I don't think your dream's going to come true. We should all
McMurphy's dream.
We should all love something as much as Brett McMurphy and Brian Moss love the thought of Memphis in the Fenway Bowl. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be Birmingham or Dallas, the First Responders Bowl or something like that. Or if Memphis can get into one of these pre-Christmas bowls, I think that is let's just get this over with and let's go on about our day. Especially now that you're in the midst of a coaching change and all that. I'm just the Cure Bowl or something along those lines, something that's December the 16th or whatever, the first weekend. I think that's what you're going to see is, Memphis I think they're going to play in a bowl, but I don't think they're going to be as focused on, getting a P5 team or making sure you get a good group of 5. It's just, let's get a bowl. Let's let the new coach, we'll hopefully see this. We'll get to that in a second. Let the new coach get a look at what Memphis has. Let the kids that don't want to be at Memphis, choose another destination. And then we go from there. And I think that is going to be the move going forward. All right. So Memphis coaching search. I will tell you, other than this podcast, I have not worked since the middle of October, since I had my initial hip surgery. Sit at my desk and, even travel or any of that other stuff. I have not stopped since 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. My phone had not died in 3 weeks. My phone's been dead 3 times in 3 days. And that's the nature. And I said it on my little screen there. I am a lover of silly season. There's nothing like it. And before I get to Memphis, I got to say, I hate BYU with the fire of 1,000 suns. They and Mississippi are 1 and 1A on my hit list. But for those who don't know, Penn State decided they wanted to hire Kalani Sitake, who's BYU's current coach. Well, this angered BYU, and one of BYU's biggest donors is the CEO of Crumble Cookies. That becomes very critical here in a minute. And apparently, and y'all, I could not make this up about BYU, I promise. So apparently, they sent some of the apostles of the church to meet with Kalani.
Who played at BYU, by the way, and is a Mormon. Okay,
and
go ahead.
I want to say that this part may be fabricated, but Lavelle Edwards' widow or something like that was involved. Like they're a culture, right? Like love it or hate it, BYU
You
is
could
a
have stopped at
culture.
Colt, but go ahead.
They're a culture. But anyway, the CEO got on Twitter and he's like, I guess I need to get to work. Well, long story short, they cobbled it. I don't want to say cobbled it. They got
No, they didn't.
they
They backed up the damn Brinks truck. But go
they
ahead.
they created an attractive enough package to keep Sataki as the coach at BYU. So a couple things. Penn State, what the hell are you doing? You had a month on everybody. Like seriously, you had a long run. Jeb's in agreement. All I needed was that first syllable. I'm trying to be nice here, people. It's almost 2026. Um, so the so the guys that run, I'll just say it, the 24/7 BYU site sent to the Penn State athletic department offices 3 dozen crumble cookies. Y'all, I'm here for it. And they took a
The
picture.
pettiness of this is just
They took a picture. It's on my Twitter. They took a picture of the 3 boxes sitting by the door, and they were addressed to Pat Kraft, who's of course the AD
AD.
at Penn State. But anyway, it's why I love silly season so much, which leads me to the Lane Kiffin thing.
Right.
The whole thing with like they said they were going to land originally in Tupelo, but from LSU to Tupelo, but they changed to land in Oxford because somebody was afraid people at Ole Miss were going to shoot at the airplanes. And then Lane Kiffin said that that people tried to run them off the road on the way to the airport. This I buy. I'm 100%
100%.
in.
Yeah.
Like this does
This
not
is
surprise me.
this is John Calipari leaving Memphis all over. Maybe on steroids. They look. This is and if you want to draw comparisons to Cal and Lane, there's a
This was
whole
close.
bunch of them. Okay, because when you hire that guy,
You
you
get
know what
everything
you're
that comes
getting.
with it. Yep,
You get everything that comes with it. You know what you're getting. I will say this. I think John left a lot better in some ways than what Lane did because at least he waited till after the NCAA tournament. I mean, I mean, but we can talk about that later. But my point is, I know you want to talk about that, but my point is that is their level. And we, of course, we were texting Friday. I have a very good friend who is a huge Ole Miss fan, and I had texted them the Sunday before when we were all talking about, yeah, he's gone. Like it was obvious he was gone. And I was like, he's gone. And they were like, oh no, it's not over yet. It's not over yet. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. You better get ready. And they were just like, no, it can't. He's not going to leave us. I was like, shoot. Okay. You know, keep. I was like, look, and I knew then this is going bad. This is going so sideways. And they're just delusional. They're completely delusional about that. And when he does leave, it's just like, yeah. So yeah, I can tell. I'm surprised somebody didn't actually take some shots at the plane. I'm really am like dead serious.
And I want to shout out to Marty Smith. That dude had a weekend in Oxford, and he told a story today, and it's on my Twitter somewhere, that he and Lane are trying to communicate, right? Because Lane wants the interview, because of course Lane wants the interview, because there's one thing Lane Kiffin loves, it's
Lane Kiffin in on the news.
And I love Lane. I think he's so good for college football. But and we need a good heel. We haven't had a good old fashioned Hogan 96 bash at the beach NWO heel. We haven't had one of those in a while. You've had Saban, who's kind of Ric Flair. He's kind of the heel, but we haven't had somebody go through a heel turn like we did. But anyway, so Marty Smith tells a story. He rented a van in Birmingham Thanksgiving night, and to get to where Lane was, they were trying to take him, like they didn't want to put Lane in the FBO there and have him walk out. Cause y'all, this was real. Like they were afraid like of physical issues. So Lane and Marty are talking, and they figure out where Lane's going to be, and there's like this blockade of fire trucks. So Marty goes off into the grass in this, he called it like driving a loaf of bread. He's off-roading this thing. And then he gets up and goes to these farm implements to catch up with Lane, and they have a laugh and all that. But like, this is the epitome of silly season, right? Like, this is what silly season is all about. Now, yeah, and Jeb, I agree. You know, for those who don't know, LSU plays at Ole Miss in 2026, and I can't make that joke.
Look,
That'd be very,
this
very
is not the
stupid.
closest that Lane's ever been to death. Okay, I'm going to tell you that straight up because those of you who don't know, when Lane was at Alabama, he was dating Nick Saban's daughter. Okay, true. This is absolutely true story, and he cheated on Nick Saban's daughter while he was working for Nick Saban. Like, this cat's lucky to be alive, much
Well,
less
and,
coaching.
and you go back from that. Think about Tennessee when he left, when he pulled the
Yeah,
Indianapolis Colts middle of the night.
those people are really.
But I just tell all those stories to say that there is no sport like college football. I don't care what anybody says. The NFL could never, soccer could never. I'll do apologies, Brian. The New Jersey Devils could never.
Mhm.
There is nothing like college football, and the
This is-
passion.
College
is what makes it
football
great.
is the closest thing you'll ever see anywhere else. Is the club soccer teams in
Yep.
England.
In
Where-
Europe, yep.
Right.
Yeah, or-
You
yeah,
have the
and
club,
any-
not the Premier League, the club teams that are down.
Oh,
like
I see
in
what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
small towns. That's
Yeah, like-
where if you watch Ted Lasso, that's what they're talking about. Is that is a club team that
Means everything.
it
Like,
means everything to that community. They live and die with, I mean, those guys, those kids, this is exactly what it's like. So for us, like, this is the same thing. And we live and die with this stuff. And look, even the small schools, like we saw it with Eastern Kentucky and Murray State. Like, Murray, if you go to Murray, like, they take that crap very seriously, like very seriously. So if you don't remember, Houston Nutt was at Murray, and he left Murray to go to Arkansas. I don't know if people remember that, and they were pissed that he left to go to Arkansas.
So, you know, I say that that the passion is what drives.
Yes. Yes.
Mike, there's no half believing. I 100% believe people left their homes, figured out what Lane Kiffin's entourage looked like, and drove like bats out of hell to try to run him off the road. 100% believe that. You could not convince me otherwise. Okay. Back on the road.
Back to what we were talking about earlier.
So, Brian, where's Memphis coaching search stand?
I think they're in the final stages, to be honest with you. You know,
I think that they are in the final stages, but we're just not going to hear anything.
because everything went silent there for a while. And how many times have we said before, when things go silent, something's popping off? And I think Dr. Scott has narrowed down his few choices, and I think he's going to vet them, you know, throughout this week. And in my opinion, I posted this on the board, I think you'll hear something before Sunday.
And I think, you know, and I've had people just up in arms. What about the recruiting class? What say you, Mr. Recruiting Man?
Oh, I've talked. If you're a member of Tiger Sports Report, you should already know that I talked to all of the recruits, all the commits, and only one has not got back to me. Well, actually, he did get back to me. Just he wouldn't commit whether or not if he's going to sign. Yeah, he wasn't committing to whether he's going to sign with Memphis or not. But he did say, and I'm not going to say his name because we'll leave some premium info on the boards. But he did say wherever Silverfield told me wherever he's coaching next year, I'm going to be there next year. So Silverfield is no longer here, so that's why I posted on the board. I don't expect him to sign with Memphis. If it's you know, a lot of people love the signing day surprises, and I put that on the message board. If this kid commits and signs with Memphis, to me, that's the signing day surprise, because you took someone that Silverfield said, you'll be with me wherever I coach, and now he's not. So, but recruiting wise, most of these kids, while they do like and love Silverfield, your first contact is your position coach.
Yeah.
And a lot of them told me, I'm in contact with the position coach. So whether it's, Coach Smith, Coach Simpson, Coach Cramsey, as long as they stay, I'm good. I'm good with Memphis. The problem with that is when you have signing day tomorrow,
Yep.
but you don't know who the head coach is going to be. So some of these kids are taking a risk that their position coach may not be here. And, on kids like that, I think that, they fell in love with the city of Memphis and the campus. But they know, some of them know it's a business, but they see how, Memphis has done with coaching hires in the past, that they have not regressed each time since Fuente, and it's a great place to be. I mean, you have, I won't say an easy path, but you have a comfortable path to the college football playoff as long as you take care of your business.
I will add, I think that you are probably going to see kids that may still look at Memphis as the best option, and then when we do hire a coach, they may then reassess and see if they want to be let out of their letter of intent.
Or just not sign at all, because this is not the final signing day. It's
Right,
just
it's
the
just
first.
the first day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you may have some that will hold off on it and wait and see.
Because February is the big signing day,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
I think that's something that I want to make sure Memphis fans understand is another one of the complaints about Silverfield was that he was hired quickly to preserve that class. Believe what you want to believe, but that was, well, I'll believe it. I'll tell you that's exactly why he was hired, was to preserve that class. I think the administration made clear to everyone that was not going to be the case this time. This is not. They weren't going to make a quick decision to salvage the 2026 recruiting class, right? Like they weren't. They're not going to do that. There is no. I'm going to let Brian answer this question here in a second. There is no long-term plan anymore at Memphis. And this isn't a knock on Memphis. This is anybody below the top, 10 programs in the country. You need to have a 3 to 4 year plan, right? Like because the dude that's there today isn't going to be there in 3.5, 4 years, whether that's his choosing or your choosing. They're just not going to be there. They're either going to do well and go on. I mean, look, Ryan took a 50-24, when you take the Cotton Bowl out, 50-24 record and tripled his salary in the SEC. Now, granted, it took a little longer, but you were coming out of COVID, and there was a lot of other stuff that had a lot to do with that. You got out of town while the getting was good. A lot of people thought if he could have gone last year, he would have, losing Seth, but he took the Philip Montgomery risk, and it still panned out for him. So that's kind of how you have to look at it, but you can't be so myopic to go, and I'll just use his name, and this is not an affront to him or whatever. We got to keep Jude Hall. So we got to hire this coach. We got to hire whomever his recruiter was. We got to make sure we keep that guy.
Right.
This AD said, we're not doing that. Now, does that mean that Memphis has not already had a agreement with their next coach, and that there's some agent tomfoolery or shenanigans? Because as I said last Sunday, if you shenan once, you will shenan again. Some of that going on behind the scenes. But I think Dave raised a great question there. So let's say a recruit signs tomorrow and Memphis hires Larry Marley, and my son goes, well, that's not it. Like, that's not what I want. Can they then enter the portal in January?
No, because they haven't played. They would have to be let out of their national letter of intent.
Right, LOI.
Which
unless the rules changed, the best of my knowledge, no, because they haven't played. you know.
But I would also think that that's another situation where the kid has the leverage and what coach is going to hold a kid
Yeah.
hostage. You know what I'm saying?
Now you'd seen that in years past, but now kids have the advantage, and coaches are like, fine, whatever, leave.
Yeah, yeah. I think and Jeb just brings up a good point that I want to talk about the quality of candidate Memphis is getting. Ryan just averaged finishing sixth in the AAC and got an SEC job. You don't think there's coaches lining up at the G5 level and, some coordinators with high aspirations to think, man, y'all, I could go to Memphis, go 10-2, 10-2, 9-3, or not, however you want to, 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, and get the Miss Ole Miss job in when Golding flames out in 2 or 3 years. They're going to line up at the door, and Memphis is going to pay. Um, we've talked a lot about this on the premium board. We'll just say that money is not going to be as large of
Yeah,
a factor in this search as it hasn't been in the past. At
right.
least that's my understanding. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not saying Memphis is willing to pay this much for a coach or that much. I think this administration is very focused on finding the right coach. And
I,
if that
I
requires more money, then that requires more money. Or does I mean, everybody has a price, right? And Memphis has a ceiling. South Florida has a ceiling. Tulane, although I think they know who they're going to hire. Uh, North Texas hired Neil Brown
Neil
today.
Brown.
Mhm. Not a huge Neil Brown fan, but like Troy, right? Troy's ex-coach, right? It was him,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
Summerall, and then Gerard Parker. Um, I think everybody's, of course, got their top, but I just well, no, and so the window, yes. So the window, but that only applies, Dave. The window he's asking about, does the new window open when a coach is hired?
That's
Yes,
to
but
players
that
that have played.
that only applies to players that are on the roster enrolled in school, whatever
Right.
that looks like.
And
So
but and it doesn't apply right now because you're so close to the transfer window. Was it
oh, that's right.
Pete from On Three clarified that, I believe, because I retweeted it. I'm like, oh, that's something I did not realize, because we're so close to the January 2nd portal window. They have to wait for that.
It's just gonna but that's fine. But I think this is why I'm in favor of player movement, y'all. I've made my to many people's chagrin. I'm 100% all in on player movement. If coach movement can happen, player movement can happen, especially now that they get money. So, but I think what you're going to have to see if you're Memphis is you're going to say, okay, we are going to make a commitment of X, right? Like,
Right.
it's not this bad. My commitment on a house is $500,000.
Right.
But if there's a house I really want, I can go back to the bank and say, hey, there's a $650,000 house. That's the one that meets all my needs. So I think there's wiggle room. I think that's what I'm trying to, don't get locked in on, we paid this guy X, this guy's making Y. So the offer is between X, Y. Like, that's not how this works. I wrote a piece today and I am never this way. I am not a win the press conference guy. It's just never been, the recruits and the kids matter more than the press conference. But damn it, if there ever was a time, it's now. That if Memphis can because the other thing people forget, that coach has to want to be here. And it's not always just about what goes into his direct deposit on the 15th and 30th of every month. What does the NIL pool look like?
Hmm.
What does the wiggle room with admissions look like from the portal? What does my staff pool look like? Can I get my staff guaranteed contracts? Right? Like, so it's not just we're going to pay $2 million for a coach. Well, that $2 million is probably a $6 to $7 million investment.
Yep.
And you go and then the people, well, Memphis was going to give the Big Ten $250 million. Well, that's a completely different thing. That's a long-term ROI, right? Like we're going to make a huge investment because we know the payoff. You got to
Long
get
term.
it for 3 years tops, right? So am I going to invest $20 million for 3 years for somebody? No. Will I invest 10? Maybe if it's the right guy. But I think Memphis knows who they want, And I just think we'll find out this weekend, and y'all can read into that whatever you want to read into it. But
Well,
I
and let me just add, for those of you who are a little thick,
think none of our normal listeners, by the way,
no, none of our normal
Mike
listeners, the people
Brewery,
that
I'll
are
talk
that
about
might
you.
be, the UNLV people that are listening. Um, the, uh, there are conference championship games this weekend, and I don't know if people remember, but Florida State waited to hire Mike Norvell until after the conference championship game, even though we all knew he was going to Florida State. We knew he was going to Florida State. That I think it was all basically finalized that Sunday after the first Cincinnati game. Yes, Mike, you. Um, but anyway, um, so you can read into that what you will. Okay, but I think it's very likely that you will have to wait until after the conference championships.
Yeah, and I think that doesn't like there's thick as squirrel. There's just this misconception that, if school A hires somebody before school B, that school B is asleep at the wheel, or if school A hires somebody that you thought school B should have hired, that just means that school A didn't make the effort, and that's just not true. That's not how it works.
So the truth is, Tulane and Memphis and UNT, and I think to a degree USF, we're all fishing in different pools
Yeah,
here.
I agree.
USF and Memphis may be fishing in the same pool, but to some of the same pools. But the other, like Tulane and UNT, they're not fishing in the same pool that we are. It's a totally different, and that's not to say they're not looking at good coaches. Memphis was not looking at Neil Brown. That was not on our
Yeah.
list. Okay. The coaches that Tulane is.
I can be easily had, by the way, for 3 boxes of crumble cookies. You won't even have to have a contract.
Don't they have the boozy cookies? I
Oh,
think
dude,
they
they're
do.
so good. Anyway,
Anyway, all right. But my point is, I just think that we are fishing. I mean, I think USF and Memphis are probably fishing in some of the same ponds, but it could also be that USF goes and gets somebody completely different, right?
or
That we
Memphis
weren't
does.
even looking at.
Yeah, or
So
Memphis does. And the other thing is, and I remind people about this all the time in the NCAA tournament. It's not always about you, right? It's not always, because I tell people when they talk about matchup, it's not always about you. It's about a matchup. It's about um, it's about down the road. It's about where, because every job, save 10, am I being generous with that, are stepping stones. Like pretty much every job is a stepping stone to another job. So how can I get from my current stone I'm on to jump to the next lily pad, to jump to the island, or to jump through the marsh? Like
Mhm.
that's the thing, is like, what is my easiest path? That's like if you were a coach in the MAC. I'll use Jason Candle for an example, because he's a name we hear quite a bit, as he's the Toledo head coach. If Jason Candle ultimately wants and I am totally making this up. If he ultimately wanted the Georgia job, and again, y'all, no truth, making this up, is it easier for him to get the Georgia job moving from Toledo to USF to Georgia, or Toledo to Tulane to Georgia? And that's different math for everyone, and that's different calculus for everyone. Everybody's
well,
going
or
to
maybe he just wants to be in the SEC,
right.
right?
So how can I get to the SEC?
Right.
What
And
is
so you're looking at that going, okay, I think going to South Florida with their resources gets me a better look at a potential SEC job, right? I mean, that's one thought, right? And so I think yes, you've got all of that. If you're going to so Neil Brown took the UNT job not because he's thinking he's going to quote unquote get back somewhere, but he probably is looking at the fact that, okay, I'm in UNT. If I do well there, I might could translate that into a Big 12 job. or something down the road.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. But that's what I want people to. Yeah, Jason Candle's been at Toledo for 16 seasons. That is wild. That's why he and Matt Campbell are always the first two names that pop to my head. Jeb says, why anyone gets so attached to any coach that they are emotionally devastated when they move on is beyond me. There's always a bigger fish in the lake. And we see this all the time. We have Memphis fans that I've had this exact conversation with for 3 coaching cycles. Just because I love Memphis today doesn't mean I can't love Fayetteville, Arkansas tomorrow. And it's nothing personal. It's business. They pack up and they move on. But I think
And
that's what
coaches move all the time. I posted this on Twitter. Coaching in general, for coaching, it is a low pay, high expectation, thankless job with no job security. None. So when you get a chance to cash in, really cash in and stay somewhere for a while, you take it. And that's what people don't understand is that most of these guys, we've all lived around here most of our lives. These guys have been in like 21 houses in 15 years, right? I mean,
I can tell you that I wrote 4 or 5 candidate profiles. Again, it's been a blur. 72 different schools on those profiles. I went back and I counted. That's the reality of coaching. And I say all that to kind of close with this. It's about fit, and it's about fit from both sides. And yes, it's about the money. That much is true.
always about the money
It's
and leverage.
always, and that's why back to Lane. He said that bullshit about I told Jimmy Sexton I didn't care about my contract. I just wanted to know about the end. Dude, shut up.
Shut the
That
hell
crap.
up.
Nobody's buying that. But anyway, if you're a coach, it is about fit because it's about if I want to go from A to C, where's the best B? And just because if Memphis misses out on a coach that everybody thinks they want, if Memphis wants Nick Saban,
That doesn't mean we didn't pony up for it.
doesn't
And
mean
we
we
were
didn't
cheap.
try. Doesn't mean we didn't pick up the phone. It just means that Nick Saban thought Michigan State was a better fit, or Penn State, or South Florida. What? It's not always about you, and it's not personal. It's a business, and if we have got as much as I love the beauty of college football, and I romanticize all this crap that goes on around it, it's a business and a TV product, and you got to quit taking this crap personal because it will keep you up at night, and it will hurt your
It
feelings.
has.
It has kept us up at night, and if I had any feelings left, I'm sure they would have been hurt. Ryan did not call me on his way out of town personally. I was very much devastated
Yeah,
when
I'm
it didn't happen.
feeling
But,
bad about it.
but anyway,
Did he ever text you, Brian? I'm seriously curious. Did he ever text you?
He said thanks. So
Uh,
he did text.
it's good to see him breaking out the classics in Arkansas
Jeez.
too. I
Um,
love to see it.
but seriously, before we leave, I do want to touch on the Kiffin thing. I do because I think it's important.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a hot take on this, and that is this. Lane, basically confronted the guy. I don't who was the guy, Brian, that he.
So it's his name is Ben, and he just came back, didn't he, Brian, to Rebel Grove, which is the On3 Mississippi site.
OM Spirit.
Yeah, OM
is
Spirit.
the-
Yeah,
yeah.
which is the On3 site. His name's Ben Garrett, I think.
And
Can't remember the last name, but Ben.
who was the Mike? I can't remember his name. I should have prepped for this, but the Mike guy that basically called the 0-3 site a fanboy site. Okay. And we were texting about this Sunday, and I was like, or maybe it was
Ben Garrett. Yep.
Ben Garrett, yeah.
Ben Garrett. And I got kind of pissed about that because we've talked about this, and John, you've tweeted about this, that a lot of the quote unquote so-called media members are rarely at Tiger football games. They're rarely at Tiger basketball games. You guys mostly, but all of us have been at a lot of the Tiger games, home, away, You guys go to the press conferences. I've done online press conferences before. We try. I mean, we are there. We write articles. You guys write articles. I talk about it, but we are there. We are there. And while I'm at it, like I played. I mean, they want to belittle what we do. Okay. Well, let me tell you something.
Well, let's hold on. We really need to separate these two things. First and foremost, what Ben Garrett did was wrong,
Right.
right? Like was
Agree.
absolutely wrong. And he's been doing this a long time, and that's the part when you put a credential in your hand, you're different. And I'm y'all. I turned 51 Saturday, and this is 51-year-old old gray-haired man talking. But that credential means something. That means that you are your responsibility. You are not a person with a podcast. You are covering the team. And
Correct.
for you to go on a podcast that, I'll be real, has way more listeners than we do,
Sure.
and number one, not even get the artist right. That is not a
Well,
Project Pat song. It is not a 666 song. It was actually a Dr. Dre song and then a Ludacris song that he kind of got mixed up. And the line was, "You can't make a housewife out of a hoe because hoes don't act right."
right.
That's uncalled for. Like in jest, not in jest, whatever. If you don't have a credential in your hand, that's fine. If you want to host a podcast, you and your buddies, and you want, that's fine. I have I have a problem with it. But
Well, but it's
but then
different.
there's
It is different.
also, hold on, there's also some disingenuity here with Lane. Shocker. Knox, Lane's son, has a podcast that Ben produces. So you can't act like you don't know. Like he tried to act like I don't even know your name. Dude, you know his name. But anyway, everybody's wrong in that situation.
Well, yeah,
Everybody.
but then to call the 0-3 site a fanboy site is BS. All right, it's just garbage. And we could, because let me just say this: we have been doing this for 15 years. Okay, and you guys mostly have been going to the games. We write articles. We are there, and I'll just say it like this, as bluntly as I can say it. We have been filling in for their broke ass newspapers for the last 15 years. We filled that gap. And to say
Well, there
that
again, these are
we
two
don't
different
deserve,
issues. The issue, Larry, I think you're trying to
yes,
address.
but it all started in the same mindset, in my opinion. Okay.
I
And
don't think so.
so
I think
see,
two different
but I do.
discussions.
I think, okay, let me put it a different way. Lane may not have felt that way, but the people covering it with their frumpy dignitary way, in the way that Calkins and Martin and I'm calling them out here because, and I've met these guys. I've talked to all of them, the way they look down on what we do. Okay. Um, it's just garbage, and it's so condescending, and that is why we have been able to do this, and their newspaper, is begging for people to come and read it.
I don't want to get down that road because I think that's a little disingenuous. I think my original argument with it was there's a lot of people that, number one, there's two groups here. There's people that don't deserve credentials that have them
Yes,
and are there. And then there's a group of people that could have credentials but don't come, but then want to question everything from the cheap seats.
correct.
And that was kind of my point in my tweets
Yes,
is that's why we all have opinions, right? Like we wouldn't do what we do if we didn't have an opinion on something. Brian wouldn't chase down recruits all hours
God
of the day
bless
and
you.
night. God
Mhm.
bless you, sir, dealing with 17-year-old kids if he didn't care. I wouldn't write 5 articles in 3 hours about the next possible if I didn't care. I wouldn't do this podcast every week. But you're also not ever going to catch me sitting back and criticizing, because the other thing, while we're buddy, it's getting near Festivus, and I'm going to get this off my chest. You can criticize whatever you want to criticize.
Mhm.
But I'm very, very tired. And this is not just from Joe Fan. This is
Oh,
from
no.
fellow media people.
Yes.
I am very tired of being accused that we don't ask the tough questions or that we coddle this
Right.
person or we coddle that person. I'm done with it. I'm going to
Yep.
call it out every time because I'm done with it because you have the opportunity to sit right next to me. Nobody likes me. So there's always an empty chair next to me at the press conferences. Well, I don't say nobody, but there's always an empty chair next to me at the press conferences. Maybe it's because I don't shower right or whatever, but there's always, come sit there. Come ask the questions you are sitting on Twitter asking. Come sit right there because you're not going to get, I did a little exercise. I said, what do you want asked? And somebody gave me a list of questions and I gave the answer that I guarantee you 50 coaches would give when they ask these specific open-ended questions. 50 answers, boom, 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 and here's exactly how it's going to be said. Here's the tone that's going to be used. It's not like we don't ask. We don't ask questions we know we're not going to get answers to. Like, why waste everybody's time? Now, if I would have been able to be there following the Navy game, do you think John Maddox would have asked about what the hell was the thought process behind making him punt again with 52 seconds left? Damn right, I'd been the first one with my hand in the air, and Claire would have had to call on me. But stop sitting in the cheap seats with a platform. Again, these aren't people that don't.
Right.
These aren't my cat that's just sitting over here in the chair
I mean,
looking at me like I'm crazy. They have programs, podcasts,
yes.
events. They have all that stuff. Come. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm the nicest dude in the world. I'm not going to look down on you.
No.
Come sit down. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Sit there, ask a question that you feel like should be asked. Ask the question. Now, you don't open press conferences up to the public for a pretty wide
Right. I mean,
range.
we saw what happened when they did that to Allen Iverson, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a bad
Yeah,
idea.
let's go to the phones, basically. So come, be a part of this. Like, there were times, I will tell you, and this year, accepted obviously at the end of the year, there were times over the last 3 seasons that it has been on a road game. It's been me and Frank Bonner.
Yep.
Multiple times. Me and Frank, or me, Frank, Jonah, and me, Frank, Jonah has kind of been was the crew this season. Duncan hears me getting fired up here, so he's got to come over and calm me down. But anyway,
We talked about that. How limited the involvement has been, and then people want to come on and bitch about, excuse my French, about what questions are being asked. Why is it this? Why has it the program? Get involved. Have something to say. I mean,
I don't want to be whatever. Hopefully, this does get more difficult. It's not hard to get a Memphis football credential.
It's
You don't
not.
have to be an accredited organization with
I mean,
some following.
but
and some history of
if you
coverage.
do get it, show up and try to be involved.
Because that was my whole thing with it too, is a lot of the things that, the shots being lobbed from the galley were from people that had credentials and their seats sat empty all season. And I'm sorry, y'all, this was kind of pulling back the curtain a little too much, but it really got under my skin this week. Because I'm tired of having basically my integrity questioned when I ask questions and write articles, and it gets old having your integrity questioned. And basically, you have one group saying, "Oh, well, you coddled this coach and you're mean to this coach."
Well, first of all, we don't have anything to say about just about anything other than football. We don't.
If we're being real, I tried to be whatever with this coach and got my ass handed to me. So I walked away from that situation. But no, it's about coverage. There has been no one in this market, no one that has been more critical of Ryan Silverfield than me. I will put it up against anyone.
Well, maybe me.
I wrote 4 articles in the last 3 seasons about why he needed to pack and go. But anyway, that's
That's our
behind the
rant.
scenes. Too
That's my
much
rant.
talk out of school, but I felt like it needed to be said and addressed. And if you want to be a part of the solution, or you have a lot of questions about why the program is run the way the program is run, you got a credential. I see your name on the damn seat. Just come. Just come ask what, because I guarantee you nobody's going to tell you you can't ask a question. This isn't Colorado, baby. I don't have to address him as Coach Prime. This ain't Colorado. Come and ask your questions, and then if you want to be critical, be critical. Be critical of me. I mean that's fair. Be critical of me. I don't. I was in IT for 20 plus years. If I had any feelings left, they'd be hurt. I don't have any. I don't take any of this personally. Um, now, see, Jeb, that's the rub. See, Jeb's got me some kind of way. Back in my day, when I first started, we used to have rendezvous and pizza. You could always tell at basketball when it was the buy game period, because we get the little Pizza Hut personal pan pizzas. And then when the conference started, or it was a big game, we had the rendezvous buffet. We'll just say the quality of food is not
No,
where it is. Of course, we had the unfortunate incident a couple years ago with the great oatmeal raisin caper of
it was
2023.
dark
It
time,
was
right,
a
baby?
hard time. It was a
Dark,
dark
dark,
time. I
dark
still
time.
appreciate the prayers, but no, I mean, all kidding aside, no staff, and we've seen this firsthand this year. Jonah and Frank and I had conversations about this. Man, the Memphis athletic department staff is amazing. The sports information department takes
And
such good care of us.
they've been that way for a long time.
100%.
Because I started in 2008, and I was living in Knoxville, driving to Memphis for the games at the time. And it was Jennifer Rodriguez.
J Rod, yep.
J-Rod.
She's like, well, before I give you credential, I got sit down with me, let me see the operation, because I don't think she was truly aware of what Rivals was.
Yeah.
Because at that time, Rivals was
new.
only 5 to 7 years old. But yeah, I sat down with her, showed her, the site, what we do, and got credit. They were, I mean, outstanding for help, and it just every year, I've never had any issues.
Even when we had the great layoff,
Yeah.
several years ago, was 2019?
2020.
2020.
Almost 2020.
And we were all like, "Ooh, how is this going to work?" I mean, look, miss the people that are no longer there, but the new people have been fantastic.
Pros are pros, and I can say that again, and if those don't know, I'm talking about Frank Bonner and Jonah Dillon from the Commercial Appeal, Frank from the Daily Memphian. We saw some not so professional this year, and it makes you appreciate what we have. So all that just to say that if you're a Memphis media member and you care about Tiger football or basketball for that instance, you have a credential. Come ask questions. Don't sit on a social media platform and take cheap shots. Don't sit on a social media platform and take cheap shots at the program and the people that get to the Liberty Bowl at 2 p.m. for a 3 p.m. for a 6 p.m. kick and don't walk back to their car until 12:30 when you get the benefit of having a show Monday through Friday. Don't take cheap shots at those people. Come to the games, ask the questions. This isn't hard, and I don't have another channel to do this because I don't really want to call names and all that, because that's not what this is about. This is just about, you can complain, that's fine, but you don't have to take cheap shots at people. You don't have to, sit and try to goad people and gaslight people and shout into an echo chamber, when if you really cared about the product, come ask the questions. That's it. You just, if you care, because everybody's got an opinion. I got mine. It's wrong about 70% of the time. I have my reasons. I have my opinions. But if you care, show up. And that's all I'm saying. I don't, No, I'm not personally hurt when anybody takes a cheap shot at me personally. It doesn't, again, it doesn't offend me. I'm 51. The people taking the cheap shots are half my age. I don't really care. But it does bother me when you're doing that to the program, to the coaches, to the kids, so on and so forth. That's when it bothers me because you have an opportunity to have yourself heard, right? You have an opportunity to have yourself heard. If you think that the play calling is conservative, come to the press conference and say, Coach, we noticed on third down that tonight that you were, 3rd and 7, you had 6 of those and you ran 4 times. What was the thought process behind that? Come educated, come and ask good questions. But anyway, this may actually be a bit uncalled for and a bit, what they say, out of school, but I just really wanted to get that off my chest. Yeah, Mike, I'm there. Yeah, 100%. Mike Brewer, my good friend, his son Jake is involved in Tiger Athletics, and to hear the things that get thrown their way is very disappointing. And I have no tolerance for cheap shots. I just no tolerance for it. It's so easy to be Walter and Stanley up in the uh, what's that, at the theater where the old guys sit up there and complain about everything. That's so easy to do. Armchair quarterbacking, but just come ask questions. That's it. Just stop taking the cheap shots at the staff or, whatever, and just come ask questions. So anyway, so that's way out of bounds, way out of school. And I'm sorry. Well, if I offended you, I apologize. But sorry, not sorry.
None
So
of you are thick. You're very svelte. You look great.
you're big
Um,
boned. You're like me, like my cat Duncan. But we will be back. What did we decide? Like the week before the bowl game, if we can.
yeah, because so you and I will. So depending on when the bowl is, but you and I will not be available after Christmas, so it'll have to be the week before Christmas.
So we'll figure out a schedule. We'll do that. And of course, we will have an emergency pod if
When?
when we get the white smoke from the when we get the white smoke from the towers at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium to let us know that we have elected a coach. All right, I feel better. That was cathartic. Again, it was probably uncalled for and out of
Right.
school.
Brian's
But
over there like, Jesus, what did I get myself into?
Brian's like, can I go
I'm a good
play in
listener.
Brian,
Brian does not understand like some of the garbage that has gone on.
Brian says, "Can I go play in the traffic I was stuck in?" That would probably be better. Oh, all right, guys. So, hey, thanks for everybody who's tuned in all season long. We really appreciate
Yep,
it,
it's been
and
great.
always. And we will be
And thanks
back
for the new signups
100%.
for our Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals.
How many
Really
more
appreciate
hours
it.
do we have? Like,
We have about 3.5 hours. Well, I'm in, yeah, about 3.5 hours.
so
Midnight.
so it's 50% off.
hmm And you get a year with the athletic as well.
So again, we don't paywall any of this, but we obviously have stuff behind the paywall. We have a very active message board, coaching change, transfer portal. We're on top of all that stuff. So sign up, and if you can tolerate more of
Yes.
this. So for the best co-hosts in all the land, Larry Marley and Brian Moss, John Maddox signing off, saying we will see everybody soon.